All right, hello everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Before we get started, I do want to thank our sponsors, which include the Greater Columbus Art Council, the Ohio Art Council, White Castle, Columbus Foundation, UBS, and the Japan Foundation, and our festival and our other festival sponsors. All right, so Jason is an Australian cartoonist, author, and comedian based in New York. For the past 16 years, he has worked as an internationally syndicated comic artist, writing and drawing the iconic 102-year-old strip, Ginger Meggs, published daily through Andrew McMeel's syndication. His work has been regularly published in The New Yorker, Mad, and other publications in print and online, along with books published by Penguin, Random House, Simon & Schuster, and HarperCollins. His art has been exhibited in France, the UK, Australia, and all over the United States. At the age of 26, he was the first president of the Australian Cartoonists Association, which was established in 1924, and then at 36, became president of the National Cartoonist Society, which was established in 1946. He is the youngest person to ever hold either position. His online newsletter, New York Cartoons, was one of Substack's feature publications in 2023 with thousands of weekly subscribers. This is the Teach and Talk, building your subscription base using Substack. And we are here with Jason Chatfield.
Thank you so much, Greg. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow, quite an intro. What a set of pipes you have. Your voice is amazing. So hello, thank you everyone for being here. And to everyone watching on YouTube while they're drawing, which is how I usually watch these. For anyone who couldn't be here, but thank you everyone who's in the room today. Just a brief adjunct to what Craig mentioned. My name is Jason. I've been a cartoonist my whole professional life. It'll be 20 years next year that I've been a full-time, that's all I've done, being a cartoonist. This is me, I'm a dog Morris. I feel like I didn't have to put arrows on those. But yeah, I have done a syndicated newspaper comic strip for the past 16 years. It's Ginger Meggs. It's like Australia's version of Dennis the Menace, but it predates Dennis by about 63 years. And it's kind of, it's a legacy strip. And legacy strips being what they are, it's a little, it started in 1921. So it's been a challenge to try and modernize it and keep it up with sort of contemporary times, but also try and adapt it to new media. But unfortunately, difficult as it is to keep a print newspaper strip going, Rupert Murdoch made it even harder when he basically killed all comic strips in Australia. So there are no more comic strips in Australia. They no more daily comic strips in the newspaper, no more Sunday strips as of this past, 3 weeks ago. It was kind of a big news item down there.
To a sign of the times.
You don't have to listen to him. It was one of those things that kind of really hit us in the guts because it's already hard enough to make a living as a cartoonist without people like Murdoch, making moves like that and then sort of making it kind of being permissive to other organizations to say, hey, look, we just killed all the comic strips. And there was a big backlash. A lot of people were very angry about it. A lot of readers were incensed. They canceled their subscriptions. But the biggest piece that was most upsetting is that we never got the invitation to go online. We never got the invitation to follow the readers from the print version of the newspapers onto the apps and website. They brought the horoscopes, they brought the Sudokus, crosswords, everything except the comic strips. And we begged them for years, like 15 years. At one point we offered them for free, which I'm not proud of, but I was like, can we just get on there so that the readers can follow us? And yet somehow that was too heavy a lift for the newspapers. So to that end, I've always sort of known that is going to be something we're up against, and I've had to kind of diversify what I do as a cartoonist. So I also do a lot of work for the New Yorker and Airmail and other publications. The New Yorker's been really great because they have been able to expand their formats with their online offerings. So like daily shouts and daily cartoons that are sort of more topical than the ones that they buy for the magazine. I've also, done books and stuff and gone to Comic-Cons and conventions to kind of try and sell books and do all kinds of illustration work and other gag cartoon work. I've been illustrating Sam Harris's app called Waking Up, which looks a little insane on this screen. But yeah, it's basically, I've been doing all the portraits for their conversations section. I just found out Sam's going to be on Real Time tonight, which is, that's going to be a spicy meatball. Anyway, social media. I should jump straight in because social media is the reason I'm talking to you today. And it's because in 2021, I deleted all of my social media. I deactivated everything, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything. And it was probably the best year of my life. But it was also very instructive because in my head, I thought the world was going to collapse when I did that. And I was going to just not be able to reach readers and share my stuff. But that's not what happened at all. That kind of reliance that I had on social media was kind of something I just made up in my head, I guess. There are definitely realities to doing that if you have built your audience on social media, and if that's the only way. But effectively, what you're doing when you're building your audience on social media is you're renting space on someone else's property, right? It's not yours, it's not your space. You don't get to take those people with you if you go to another platform. You got your 4 million people on Instagram. Good luck trying to get to all 4 million of them when you have a book to plug. You're going to get like a scintilla of that 4 million people. And that's even if you boost the post. So I guess it's an auspicious time to be talking about social media. Just knowing how insane it's been lately between Meta and, I refuse to call it X, what Elon has been doing. It really feels like there is a pivot point. This is kind of the end of an era, it feels, the 2010s. It's kind of an end of an era of, I guess, people going with whatever the algorithm wants to show them, right? And there was a point where there was like an inflection point right before the pandemic where people were kind of trying to find something else. Substack kind of filled that gap for a minute, but it wasn't quite ready. But what they had done is, in true form, they kind of went to war. They said they went to war with Twitter. I think Twitter said they went to war with them, but whatever. Basically, they created something that affected the social media platform's ability to retain their users, right? So there was a point where people were sick of feeling angry and upset and depressed, and they wanted to find something else. And it came around the same time as Meta was really doubling down on the metaverse and all the VR and AR stuff that was clearly really, really, really bad for their bottom line, because I think they lost 15 years of stock market earnings in the first 3 quarters of 22 because of that. And a lot of people who built their followings on social kind of started to realize that as soon as their static posts, like comics and cartoons, were getting suppressed in favor of reels, video content, they started to panic. You know, people who had been making their living selling merch or prints or anything based on that followership started to panic. The algorithm giveth and the algorithm taketh away. It is very much a kind of it feels like an abusive relationship, social media, a lot of the time. You know, it's great when you go viral for the right reasons. But, you know, if your work gets out there and nobody's seeing it because it's being dictated by an AI, feels a little inhuman. You know, this is a little cartoon I did. They use an algorithm to match you to your perfect pet. It does feel a little inhuman. And then, you know, if something happens and you get hacked, say you have a big following, I will often get texts and DMs from like cartoonists who have lost access to their accounts, asking me as if I know, like, how do I get back into my account? And they can't get access. this is a cartoonist, I won't say who it is, but she had a really big following, and Instagram wouldn't let her back in her account because someone hacked it. And then in order to confirm it, she had to log into Instagram. So she just lost years and years and years of followers that she diligently built on that platform and had to start over. And that's not to speak even of the fact that so much of the cartooning content was being suppressed or erroneously flagged for hate speech. You only have to read what Matt Bors and the people at Nib were dealing with when all of Meta's, I guess, let's call it algorithmic, trying not to use the word censorship. It kept getting flagged as the wrong thing. It couldn't recognize satire. The inability for moderation using bots to recognize satire and parody, really, really difficult. A really difficult challenge. I was on a call recently with Meta and a bunch of other people who were talking about this very thing as it pertains to AI-generated content and how that's going to happen. What their moderation guidelines are going to be for that. And without going into any detail, it feels like they know about as much as we do at this point, which is really concerning. Yet another reason to get off social and move on to something else. Not to speak also of the, I guess, enragement equals engagement business model. Having people, we went from unruly to unruly so fast no one even noticed. It really feels like it's been a slow burn until now. It's just an absolute garbage fire everywhere you look when you're trying to get your work out into the world. So is there a better way to do it? My instinct is there's always going to be something else, and it's always going to be a shorter and shorter cycle. Twitter, I joined Twitter in 2007, and then I saw that cycle, and then Facebook, and then Instagram, and they're shorter and shorter and shorter, Vine, TikTok. These things have a life cycle, and it is interesting to watch them. And then you see something like Medium or Substack, and then you think, well, maybe there's hope here. Maybe there's hope. I'm sharing something from Jake Parker with his permission that he kind of showed the difference between having a ton of followers. This is in Inktober. I'm showing a Jake Parker thing. The difference between having a lot of followers and trying to promote something or get engagement on something versus just having a mailing list that goes directly to people. So this is Jake explaining just an example.
This thing I posted on Instagram, I have 500,000 Instagram followers, that's crazy. It seems like a ton of Instagram followers. And I posted this picture of a TikTok robot, and it got 53,000 likes. And I look at that and I'm like, holy cow, that is incredible, because usually I'm getting 10,000 likes on something. That tells you a lot about social media right there. To have 500,000 followers and only get 10,000 likes on something. This is a conversion rate of a few percentage points. But to get 53%, that's really good, and I was happy with that. But let's view the insights. Let's dig in a little deeper. Okay, so the reach was 454,000. That's almost all of my followers, but it wasn't just my followers. Out of those almost 500,000 accounts that were reached, 7,000 visited my profile. Now that's pretty cool. If I had a link to buy my new book, those 7,000 people would then have access to this link on Instagram where they could go check out my book. Actually, right now my Instagram account just says sign up for my newsletter. But let's go down here. Profile visits 7,600, website clicks 31. Cue The Price is Right trumpet. Out of 500,000 people, 31 people clicked to see my website. Okay, this is for a 50,000 liked post. Let's look at an actual normal post. So here's my personal character, Spelch Chaser. I'm supposed to be making a comic with them someday. Life gets in the way. That's something that I'm struggling with right now. But I keep posting, I keep writing stories for them, and that'll be a thing that happens someday. It got 6,000 likes, or almost 7,000 likes. And that is more in the realm of these are like more of my fans and not just people who think the TikTok robot is a crazy idea. And let's look at the reach there. So 62,000 reach, 400 profile visits still. Those are great numbers, but then website clicks, six clicks from that. So that is social media. Now I want to show you my last email newsletter I sent out, which was Rise of the App Bots. I shared my TikTok bot and a bunch of these other robots, and every week I not only share what I've been working on, but I share what's inspiring me. So look at this cool art this artist made. Look at this cool car I saw, on Twitter or whatever. So I'm trying to get value, but this goes out to 8,600 people, 8,600 people. 43% of them open the email. That's really good. So that's almost half of these people, and a 5.2% click rate. Okay, so let's go down. Here's my shop. I have a link to my shop here. 59 subscribers clicked a link to check out my shop. So out of 8,000 people, I got the same amount of people clicking on my shop that I got from the this Instagram post. I got more people visiting my shop than I got people visiting my website here, with a fraction of them. So this is just to illustrate to you how important email is and how you can get so much better engagement with a small email list compared to a massive amount of followers.
So that's Jake's kind of example. He does it better than I do, so I thought I'll just outsource it to him. Social media is always going to change. They're always going to try and adapt to whatever competition is out there. Twitter is going to try and become something else. Meta is going to try and introduce Reels to try and compete with TikTok. It's just this ever-moving thing, and when you signed up with one thing and then they change the rules halfway through, okay, sure, that's on them, but you decided to build your business and connect to your people on that platform. So there is a better way. The thing is, social media is always going to change. Email isn't going anywhere. I know it sounds like a weird thing, because DMs and texting and there are so many other ways to communicate, but email is the last bastion of sort of that intimate place where every morning, and then several times throughout the day, you go. That's where you get your communication. So similar to Jake, maybe like 7 years ago, to try and get bums on seats at comedy shows, I would, after a show, if it went well, I'd stand by the door and give out business cards that had a link to my mailing list. And then over time, over years, I slowly built up thousands of subscribers so that every time I was doing a show, I would email them out and then they'd show up. And then the bookers were like, oh, great, he brings people. Let's put him on more. And that was why I was doing that. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but it was working. And then eventually I thought this would be a really good way to share my cartoons. And so I started just doing one a week, where it was just like, one cartoon in your inbox every week, every Tuesday. And then things got really bad in the pandemic, and trying to think, all right, how do you pitch this as something that isn't just one more piece of spam? The news is awful, read cartoons instead. But keeping it really simple, less is more. So a free cartoon in your inbox every Tuesday. I'll explain why free later. Plus, extra bonus stuff. I built up I tried lots of different things, experimented with different platforms. I was on MailChimp for a long time. Tried all these different things, and I did use social media to try and build my mailing list. The thing is, as soon as social media notices you're plugging something that is going to take people away from the platform, they start to suppress it, because of course they do. So I tried to make it as frictionless as possible for people to sign up anywhere they possibly could. Pop-ups on my website. Apologies for the color, it doesn't really look like that. And then just keep it really simple, right? One cartoon every week. This one is, we've decided we're going to settle this in the comments of a YouTube video. And then at the end, a picture of my dog, because why not? If they're not there for me, they're there for Morris. So then I noticed a lot of other cartoonists started to do the same thing. They were really, really big on social media platforms, and then they were really going heavy. Every bio link was for a newsletter. Matt Inman, who does the Oatmeal, started to have this pop up on his website after a while, saying, don't follow me on Twitter, don't follow me on Facebook, sign up to my mailing list. And Matt knows a thing or two about this because he has built a giant community of people that he can't reach. And he can't bring them with him anywhere. If he wants to move from MailChimp to Medium or Substack or wherever, he can't bring those people from Instagram and Facebook and Twitter with him. They're just stuck on that platform forever. So building a community is really important, but building a community that you can take with you if things go south, say whatever platform you move to gets bought by a hedge fund and they decide to completely change tact, you can take those emails with you. You have those, you always have those. Substack does that. It lets you it gives you an indication of who's subscribed to you, how long they've subscribed, how much money they spend with you, which is nice. And most importantly, there's an export button. That is the most underrated feature of Substack, I think, in my opinion. And I'm not saying I'm going to bail from Substack or anything, but it's nice to know you have the option. So this is something they put out last week. I thought it was kind of funny. And this is apropos of what I've just been talking about. But it's in cartoon form, so I like it. That's the vibe, right? People who actually like nuance and like to read and actually like to sit and watch something of quality and of value, and God forbid paid for it, that's kind of where Substack's head is at. They took Patreon, Medium, and MailChimp, and they kind of made this amazing mush together, made this great baby that kind of ticks a lot of boxes. A lot of journalists jumped over initially, and that was kind of a big piece. Some of them were coaxed over with money and guarantees in full transparency, but a lot of culture makers and writers are bringing their massive audiences from other platforms to Substack. And the active users and subscribers that they're seeing is up 89% year over year. That's an insane number. So there are a lot of people who are moving, and there are people who are sharing how they did it. So not only is Substack a community of people who actually are doing this, but they're actually sharing how they did it. That's not totally, I wouldn't say common on Instagram or Facebook. People share a lot of the stuff they're doing about being an influencer and about what they're doing behind the scenes, but they're not always telling the truth. And there are people on Substack who are very happy and willing to share how they did what they did and when they did it, and give actual screenshots and numbers on their paid subscribers and their comps and their gift subscriptions and free trials. So yeah, I mean, immediately getting a Substack and changing all of your bio links from your portfolio page or your website to a Substack is probably more clever at this point than just trying to reinvent the wheel. This is my Facebook, and then Instagram and Twitter. It's like a one-line thing, tell them what it is, and then just direct them to the Substack. But most importantly, don't try and copy everyone else. Just focus on what you uniquely do, right? Do the thing that you do that no one else can do, and make sure that in that crowd of people, you're not doing something that you hate doing. Don't do something different that you resent. Do something different that you love. And Kevin Kelly kind of boiled it down, as he often does, which is don't aim to be the best, be the only. That helps. Write what you know, draw what you know. There are things that you can do that you might take for granted that other people might find value in. That's kind of where the sweet spot of making a Substack is, where people will find you and you'll find your people. So I kind of did that when I saw the writing on the wall with other platforms. Started a Substack in 2020 and thought, what is it that I bring to the table that no one else is doing? And that was that I'm doing cartoons about living in New York, and I'm doing stand-up. And so I was like doing stories about my neighborhood and about doing stand-up and touring and doing all sorts of stuff. And I was like, what the hell do I call it? And I had like 50 different names that didn't make any sense. And then of course you have to pick one that hasn't been taken. But insanely, this one wasn't taken. New York Cartoons was not taken, which is crazy, on all the platforms, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So my Substack is called New York Cartoons. It's really, really like you tell people exactly what they're going to get when they subscribe. Don't lie. Don't overinflate it. Make it as simple and clear as possible. And they can literally just click and subscribe. And I don't try and get in my head about making every single thing perfect, you know? Sometimes I get to use all my favorite drawing tools and my nibs and my inks and my brushes and everything, and sometimes I'm on the road and I just use whatever is within arm's reach. People seem to like it. There is some testimonials from my wonderful subscribers like Blanche Jr. from Westchester here. She seems to enjoy it. Classic Blanche. Yeah, so I mean, you build a site. You can choose. You can customize how it looks. There are different formats. There's like a magazine format, which I kind of prefer because you can section it out. Then I can like build in sections where I've got my sketchbook. Like little sketch, like the New Yorker sent a bunch of cartoonists out around New York to kind of eavesdrop and draw what they were hearing and seeing. And so there was like an overheard section. So I put that up, and I went to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and drew all the hats of the different people. And then you can kind of section them out like that. There's another one where I'm asking people, it's called Your Shout, where I ask people if they've got like a New York story that's like an interesting one, you know, like the Metropolitan Diary in the New York Times with a little illustration, but on Substack and a little longer. And people love that. They feel like they're connected to it. They send it to me, and then in return, I give them a free subscription and send them the original of the cartoon if they want it. That first one that came through was about there was a reader who was playing chess in Washington Square Park, and a pigeon came and just landed on the chessboard and was making some moves, and they were pretty good. And so that was a pretty good story. I thought it would make, you know, something good to illustrate. People seem to enjoy it. And I make it, again, really simple for them to send it. If they want to send a story, you just click the pigeon and then wash your hands. The other piece to it is kind of the IRL version, which is like, instead of just going out on social media and on your other platforms to try and plug what you're doing, you can also, like, I made stickers and business cards, and kind of hit them around New York, around stuff, and kind of made it as simple as possible. The QR code really had its moment in 2020, so I thought, why not jump on? You know, hide them everywhere, from like fire hydrants to lampposts to bathrooms and all over the city. And people get in touch and they're like, hey, I saw your stuff in the street and I like it. There are a million different ways that you can, depending on what you do, and you figure out like, where are the people that I want to reach, go there and then promote it there. Don't try and promote to the whole world. Just find your people. So yeah, this is what the card kind of looks like on one side. And on the other side, I put like illustrations of like different posts that I've done. And today, this pile right here, if you pick one of these up and you scan it and you sign up, I'm giving everyone who's here in the room, sorry people watching at home, everyone in the room, I'm giving you a free year of New York cartoons. So you get a subscription, you get a subscription, you get a subscription, you all get a subscription. All right. So you can sign up and kind of see what I'm talking about in real time rather than me just trying to sell it to you. You can just see what I'm doing. A big piece of it, and it's something that I know all of you are really interested in, because I know I am, it's process, just geeking out about the back end of things. Like, instead of just showing the finished work, saying, hey, this is how I did this thing. There was one that actually I wrote last year at CXC while I was here. I was down in the gallery with Maria Scrivan, and we were talking about like rituals that we have in the studio. And then it turns out what she told me was something that Tom Richmond and Gary Trudeau had both told me they do. And I was like, oh, this is a thing then, I guess. So like clearing space to make way for mental creative space. And like just letting, when you're doing the work, this is my studio, it's just like an insane mess of crap everywhere while you're getting your creative on. But then afterwards, like clearing it away to make it, you're like, all right, you're ready for the next project. That's something a lot of cartoonists do that I didn't know they did. And then people really seem to engage with that post. So yeah, process is a big piece. If you think this looks like a fancy studio, this is what I had for the previous 7 years. So, you know, it's been a journey. But it really, like, showing people, again, stuff that you do that you might take for granted, that other people might think is a superpower. You know, they're like, you can do that? How do you do that? And showing the behind the curtain stuff people really seem to engage with it. They seem to enjoy that you're being candid with them. You're not trying to hide behind some kind of social media filter veneer, making up an idea about what your life is. You just show it, and you show the process, you show the tools you're using, you show, exactly what the finished product looks like after, all of the scrunched up bits of paper in the waste paper bin. That stuff really, as well as presenting the finished product, that stuff really resonates with people. And especially if you're learning as a cartoonist, sharing what you're learning. As a cartoonist, you never really stop learning. You never ever stop learning. Mort Gerberg is like 94 and he's still learning stuff that he like processes and ways to create. But yeah, sharing a sketchbook. I mean, I know that's a little personal, sharing a sketchbook sometimes, but if you don't mind, every week I have a section on the newsletter where I share my sketchbook and like what I've been sketching. I think of other things that people might want to read about. Every summer the New Yorker softball team, we are the worst team in the league. Sorry, we are. We play like a whole bunch of other magazines like Esquire and Rolling Stone and New York Magazine. And we're, it's basically a bunch of cartoonists getting together to drink, but we play softball and so I started this is my rookie card, by the way. We started to kind of keep track of who was winning and who was going to be playing and where, and readers started to actually show up to games and stuff. It was kind of cool. There were people who came by and go, "Hey, I heard you were playing in Brooklyn this week." And David Remnick was third base coach for a game, but it didn't help. We're still really, really bad. And then apart from showing a picture of Morris, at the end of each post, I like to share an artist that I'm enjoying, someone that I think if they like my work, they might like that person's work. So I'll sort of do a someone you might like section. And then again, I put that in its own section in the actual main page so that if people want to go through all of them, they can. Different people are doing such different things on Substack, and I think it's great if there's a network of people who can kind of share it. All the stuff that I'm doing, I'm kind of knowing that it's going to be mostly read on a phone. I'm kind of tailoring it to that shape. The story of the guy who's on corner of Avenue C and 3rd Street, curly, he wears a different suit every day. I thought that might make a fun little story and reads pretty good on the phone. I went to see Funny Pages in Brooklyn at an outdoor cinema. And then there's a guy called Tiger Hood who he hits milk cartons into a milk crate on 3rd Street and on Moneta Lane. And he's kind of cool, so I did a story on him. But yeah, again, 68%, this is in 2022, so it's way more now. 68% of the views are on a mobile device. So yes, it'd be glorious if everyone was looking at your stuff on a giant desktop screen, and sometimes they do, and you can tell them to do that, but a lot of it is being viewed on a phone. So kind of have that in the back of your head, really. This is kind of I guess this is the canvas that we have now. This is the new thing that we're working on. So if you get too into the weeds on detail, I have a picture of a phone on my desk just to kind of remind me, pull out, you're good. It takes patience. The whole process of building an audience, finding your thing, it's a lot of trial and error. It does take patience. This was July 2022 to September of 2022. It got pretty good, you can see, after Substack made me a feature publication at the start of the year. That really helped. They sometimes just pluck someone out of the crowd and go, "Hey, I like that post." And then this is what it's been the last 90 days. If you zoom right into the 30 days, it's crazy. But then you zoom out, it's in the aggregate, it's pretty good. And look, this is going to sound like a crazy thing to say, but give it 5 years. Don't give it 12 months or 18 months. Give it 5 years. 5 years sounds like a lot of time. It's much slower than you'd probably like, but if you accept the reality of slow progress, you're going to have every reason to take action today. So if you resist the reality of slow progress, 5 years from now, you're just going to be 5 years older and still looking for a shortcut. If you double down on one thing that you think is going to work and stop trying to do everything for every kind of platform, it probably will yield results. And if you do it consistently, posting consistently is really important. Don't just do it whenever you have time. Carve out time to do it. Make a habit of it. There's a guy called Lenny Rachitsky who shared his growth story from 0 to 500,000 subscribers. you can see where he stopped writing weekly, and it sort of petered off. You know, if you're not in people's inboxes, they're going to forget about you, and they're not going to go after your stuff and try and find you. The majority of people aren't going to do that. There's going to be a very small amount of people who are going to do that. But then the growth, when he started writing every week and then launching paid to add value, it did very well. And then Substack recommended the feature. There's a Substack recommended feature where other people who subscribe to other people's Substacks, they immediately get a list of things to go, hey, if you like this one, maybe subscribe to these. That helped a lot, clearly. So yeah, Lenny's growth was pretty considerable from there. And yeah, he's got 500,000 subscribers. Now that sounds good, I guess, but also 500,000 people sounds like a living nightmare to me. That's too many people, I feel. That's too many people. You have to prune your peeps. You have to go through, figure out who's actually opening your stuff, who's reading your stuff, who's engaging with it, and go through and see like, okay, great, I've got 29,000 subscribers, who's actually opening the thing? It matters to kind of pare that down to just the people, make time to pare that down to just the people who are actually enjoying your things. Yeah, so you're not just shouting into the abyss like you are on social. Lenny had a good piece of advice, which is things that don't matter. Your design, your title, your strategy, your growth plan, your vision, most stuff. Things that do matter, quality, consistency. There's no trick to making something like this grow. Growth comes from publishing something valuable that people want to share with their friends and colleagues over and over and over and over. That's pretty much the sweet spot. You can noodle over the extra stuff that I was going through before with logos and formats. Great, absolutely experiment with that stuff, but ultimately being consistent is the most important thing. Planning is great. You can do that if you want to. You can make a list of ideas. Austin Kleon has a pretty good post about that. You can work to a calendar. You can set a schedule. Some people hate schedules. I live by a calendar, so that kind of helps. And write at a pace that you can maintain. Write at a pace that you can maintain. That's really, really important because if it becomes drudgery, you're not going to do it. And it's going to become work. And people can tell when it's work. The other thing is kind of if you're a bit of a people pleaser like me, you want to hold up to what you're saying you're going to do. So tell people what next week's one's going to be, what they're going to get next week. They'll get excited about it, but then also now you've got to hold yourself to that. You told everyone you were going to do a thing about ducks and pickleball. All right, get on it. They're expecting it next Tuesday. So just start writing is a really good piece of advice. Anna Codrea-Rado has a fantastic Substack that you should all subscribe to. Just start writing, she says. Based on her experience of building the newsletter over the years, the most important thing to focus on in the beginning is just the writing. Just get started. Write, draw, share it. I am aware. How are we going for time, by the way? I don't want to go over time, but
20 minutes.
Okay, great. So in the next 20 minutes, I'm just gonna
10 minutes.
Let's say 10. 10 minutes, I'm going to quickly, because I don't want to do a masterclass on Substack, all right? There's just too much to cover, but I will quickly go through the app, how it works, what it is, what the platform is. I don't work for Substack. I'm not an employee of Substack. They paid me one time to do live drawings at one of their events. That was kind of fun, but I'm not paid by them in any way. I just really enjoy the platform. They just updated the app last week, and it's really good. It's designed specifically for how people are using it. Like the first, second, third iterations were like, all right, how are people going to use this? And then they just updated it according to how people are using it. They have a new navigation down the bottom, which is super, super simple. They're using what works already from other platforms and just replicating it in their own form. They have 5 main sections, which is the inbox, which is, the feed of things that you subscribe to, pretty basic. Notes, which is my favorite section. Notes is the thing that got Twitter upset. Notes is the thing where they thought, oh, great, they're trying to compete with Twitter. They weren't trying to compete with Twitter, but they certainly weren't not. It's just like, do you remember, I joined Twitter, like I said, it's like 2007. Remember when it was nice for a minute there? Like 2010, 2011, there was like a really nice sweet spot there where people actually spoke to each other. But yeah, it really has turned into a garbage fire. So Substack has kind of found a sweet spot where it's people being respectful and interesting and not trying to be inflammatory. Their moderation is better, much better. I don't have back-end access to that, so I don't specifically know how they do it, but I know that being the size they are able to do it for now properly. But yeah, Notes is great. Notes is kind of like, I have a friend, Nishan Jain, who does sneaky art. He kind of goes to places and just like sneakily draws people and posts it on Notes and on his Substack. We had a big chat recently, so if you follow Sneaky Art, he has a podcast on his Substack, which you can also do on Substack. You can have podcasts because, of course, everyone has to have a podcast. But Notes is great. Notes really feels like a perfect adjunct to like, all right, great. I'm posting a weekly newsletter. Where are people going to find out about it? Great. Notes. They're people who are already subscribing to newsletters. So it's a captive audience. So it's a much better conversion rate than just trying to go out onto Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and bleat into the sun and say, please subscribe to my newsletter. And you can restack stuff. So if you actually see something you like, you can find a quote, restack it, and then it attributes the person who wrote it, God forbid. It actually gives them credit, and if people want to read more, they can just click through and actually see it. There's also a chat feature. This is more for your actual subscribers. This is for the people who decided to, subscribe to your newsletter, and you can actually directly talk to them in real time if you want to. You can make this for paid subscribers only or free subscribers. I had a really fun experience with this when it first came out. Mason Curry, who did the great book, Daily Rituals, he was looking at Heidi Klum's Halloween costume, she was like a giant worm last Halloween. And he was saying like, I'm sitting here thinking, is there some way I can make the Heidi Klum worm my new Subtle Maneuvers logo or brand identity? His Substack is called Subtle Maneuvers. And I was at the drawing board at the time, procrastinating. And I said, let me draw it just quickly, just as a goof. And then I scribbled it up. This is Kafka as the Heidi Klum worm. And then I added his title, and then he just made it his logo for the Substack. That was kind of cool, and I got a ton of followers for it. That wasn't why I did it; it just happened to be a thing, and then it kind of worked. There's an activity feed. It's exactly what it looks like. It's notifications. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Anytime someone shares you, restacks you, replies, mentions you, it's all there. And then of course the Explore tab, which, usually on my Instagram it's a bunch of Frenchies, but on this it's actually people who I don't read yet, who are similar to the people that I do read. Very quickly, how does it work? Real basic, you set it up, it's free, you set it up, you see all of your previous posts and what they've done, you click new post, and you just start writing. You put pictures in there, you can put videos in there, you can put podcast, you can put audio, and then when it's published, they give you a whole bunch of, ironically enough, ways to share it on social media. But you don't have to do that. But if you really wanted to transport your followers from social media over to Substack, they use AI to create videos, just shareable videos that you can use on Reels and TikTok and whatever, where you can select a chunk of the newsletter, and then it will just generate using whatever voice. You can even use your own voice if you want, a video. Yeah, and then you can share those on whatever platform you want with different formats and shapes. And different, aspect ratios. It's pretty handy. They know what they're doing. A lot of them used to work at these platforms, so they know exactly how to do this. Publications that recommend me end up bringing in readers, and then I do the same for them. If you would like to join Substack, if you don't already, if you use this code, I don't get anything out of this, but I would love you to just give it a bash. If you have something to share, substack.com/refer/Jason Chatfield. It's one of those things where it's interesting to know who's doing what with it, right? I'll finish up by saying, similar to the analytics you can get that Jake showed you with the video, it's kind of, you can get all those analytics if you're really a numbers person and you want to see all those numbers. They're all there for you. You can see the traffic, you can see where they're coming from, what they're doing, what they're clicking on. You can make a podcast. It doesn't cost anything. It costs $0. MailChimp's like $40 a month. Substack's nothing. They take a cut of your subscriber money. That's it. And a subscriber model is better than an advertising-based model. because they're not trying to game anything with an algorithm to get as many eyeballs as possible on something that's getting like mad engagement because it's going viral for the wrong reason. You can choose what you offer, similar to Patreon. You can choose which tiers give what things, always offer value that you think you would want when you subscribe to something like this. Free is the default. You don't have to pay. Free, it's just I just send out the weekly newsletter. But then, I mean, giving away stuff for free. Again, Matt Inman taught in his 8 Marvelous and Melancholy Things about creativity. Make people laugh really hard. Tell stories that get them lost in your world. Write music that makes them happy, sad, or somewhere in between. And if you've done that many, many, many times, then consider asking them to buy a t-shirt. Enrich their lives before you enrich your own. Give more than you take. That's a pretty good model for this. Don't just ask for money right off the bat is a pretty good model for it. Don't sell yourself short. Don't say, hey, take everything for free. You really do have to choose how much you can choose how much you want to charge, annually or monthly. It's pretty good. It works pretty well. I'm not complaining, but it's definitely better than a legacy strip where of every dollar that you make, 50% goes to the syndicate. They do a lot of work, I'll admit. Then the IP holder gets that 50%, then they give you 80%. Then at that 80%, your taxes get taken out, and then the New York taxes, so they're, state, city, federal. You're left with 25% take-home pay for doing 100% of a comic strip. So this is a little better. You get 100% of the money. Just like Counterpoint, there's a lot of great cartoonists working for Counterpoint. That's on Substack now. American Bystander's on Substack. Toonstack is one thing. We just send out one email every week. Bunch of cartoonists from the New Yorker sending out cartoons on one topic. It was started by Sophia Warren, Ellis Rosen, Jason Katzenstein, Shelby Lorman, Hilary Campbell, Naveed Madivan, Johnny DiNapoli, Kendra Allenby, and Amy Kurzweil. And then just make it your own. Lastly, make it your own. So just, they've got everything there. They've got resources, buttons, dividers, but I don't know. Mine's about New York, so I've got like bagels and hot dogs and pigeons and stuff. Get creative about asking people, to go through the paywall. Do interesting things, and people kind of like it. There's way more that I could say about it, but I know we're short on time, and I could go on about this forever. I do want to share. I'm going to leave you with this one last thing. Yeah. Okay. This is one last thing. By the way, Patrick Hanlon, great quote. People want to belong to something, but they need to be given signals that trigger their emotions. This is Hilary Campbell. She's she's a New Yorker cartoonist. She has a Substack called Cartoons by Hilary. One of her readers knew that she was a huge Frasier fan. This is a great cartoon of hers, Help Frasier. He'll tear your psyche apart. They happened to know Kelsey Grammer or had access to him and then showed him the cartoon. It's fantastic. That's the community. Yeah, that's the community. The ultimate thing: celebrate your unsubscribes, find your people, and feed only those who show up for dinner. Don't try and play to the world. Just play to who wants to hear from you. They will keep subscribing, and then eventually you'll find you're enough. That's it. There's more that I could go on about, but I think we're done for time. So thank you.